Maybe in 1 minute, open the screen so that we can start by 4:30. Geetika says she couldn't join.
Who?
Geetika?
Rajni, can you take care of this issue?
Hello, Kavita? Hello?
हेलो आपका हो गया ज्वाइन ये वेबिनार है
Siddharth, are we ready to go? It's 4:30.
Yeah, it's 4:30.
Please open. Dr. Gu.
Okay, should we start?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so we are going to start now. So good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to all the participants. Today we have participants from schools, colleges, research and government organizations, NGOs from across the country, and few international participants from University of California, Berkeley, and University of Arizona. We thank you all for taking the time for discussion on water and people interactions. It's our first webinar series among the series of webinars on water resources management for sustainable development. This initiative is basically a part of our national agenda and commitment towards achieving the sustainable development goals. I am Siddharth Jain, a Deputy Manager with Development Alternatives, and I will be moderating this discussion. And before we start, there are a few housekeeping rules. Please keep your mobile phones in the silent mode. Keep yourself muted when not speaking. If you want to speak, please raise your hand and you can write your name and the name of the organization which you represent. You can also write comments, thoughts, ideas in the chat box. While writing anything in the chat box, please select the all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see the comments. You can write the questions in the Q&A box and our team will arrange for making your videos on. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, Vice President, Development Alternatives Group, for the welcome address and to introduce the webinar series and our organization. Dr. Lakshmi.
Your voice is breaking, Siddharth. Is it better to switch off the videos?
Okay, I think there is a lag.
Maybe. So I will just share my screen in the meantime.
Can everyone please mute yourself?
Okay, am I audible, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, this is Vijay Lakshmi, Development Alternatives Vice President. Very happy to invite all of those people on the webinar. Some I know, very good friends also joined. Dr. Gupta, Dr. Chandana, and many more. I haven't seen all the names as yet. But this is a happy occasion for us because of two reasons. One is this is the first in the series. We launched this event on an important day, that is World Environment Day tomorrow. On the occasion of that, and we are planning to continue these webinar series by involving eminent speakers. And a very warm welcome to all of you. And thank you for joining us in this pandemic. I hope you and all your family members and friends are keeping safe, and wish you all have good health in the days to come. And a very warm welcome to a good friend of ours, Mr. Ekalavya, who is our guest speaker today. And we are all eagerly waiting for Mr. Ekalavya's presentation. He is a well-known, renowned person, and many of us knew him. If you are on the Facebook, for his photography and people-nature interactions, the photos that he clicks are terrific in the field of environment, and his own interactions with people is very interesting. So I'm hoping to enjoy. All of us are going to be eagerly waiting for his speech. So let me use this opportunity to talk a little bit about development alternatives on our initiatives and the background to this whole webinar series for 10 minutes. And after that, I will hand over to Siddharth for introducing our speaker in detail. And let me tell you that this background series, webinar series, is designed by my colleagues since we have been working on water issues for a long time. And this is also a time for us to start communicating with various sections of the population and exchange ideas. This is not a kind of expert speaks and then we are listening, but it is a kind of allowing people to interact with each other and question some of these paradigm thought processes. And nothing is cast in stone here. It is only exchange of ideas and to trigger some kind of innovation in our minds and being locally relevant. So let me introduce water, why we are doing this, why water. Water is the lifeline. We all knew it is required for both humans and nature. And UN Decade has rightly identified so because of the pandemic, and very nicely, it is the right time, opportune time for us to look at ecosystems restoration. And we all realize now nature needs breathing space now. And the kind of thing, the whole pandemic issue is reminding all of us to look back and look at what we are doing to ecosystems. And so rightly so, this webinar is in the right direction. So on the other hand, many of us are aware sustainable development goals which need to be achieved by all countries by 2030. We still haven't been there. Water being one of the key goal. If we achieve water, we can achieve 5 other goals very easily. So that's why also we need to start thinking the perspectives we need to build on achieving the holistic approach. The other one is we want to understand better what kind of nature interactions people have with water. And citizen science is another area which we want to. That's why our focus is to introduce this webinar mostly to young citizens, young people who are going to be the future eco-citizens. So we want to see them, and our future is dependent on the youth. So today's webinar is on water and people interactions. Is been chosen as a curtain raiser. Um, so I'll just briefly run over. We are taking water for granted, whereas water availability on the earth, it is only 0.039% of the total water that is available is in the utilizable form, whereas the rest of it is all either in the glaciers or in a non-utilizable form, that is in the oceans. So we need to be really careful about how we are dealing with water. The other issue is because of temporal and geographical problems, the available water also is not equally distributed. So we need to, while people, we have all recognized water is enough, enough water is there in the form of rain coming back, but it is not proportionately distributed. So water management becomes much, much important when human beings are interacting with. Whereas nature, if you start looking at for millions of years, nature has been taking the water cycle. And many of us are aware water cycle is nothing but when the rain, every drop of water that we use would have been used by, it is not an infinite resource. Every drop that we are using right now would have been used by 5,000 million years ago by somebody else, which is now coming back in fresh form. All this is happening because of the nature being the naturally cleaning it, giving it back in the form of rain, and which is getting percolated into into the rivers as well as into the groundwater, which we are able to extract as fresh water and for different uses. But what is happening is our anthropogenic activities are contaminating, and even that small amount of water which is fresh we are unable to make use for various reasons. So it is right time for us to look at nature and mimic nature's in our dealings. So nature managed water cycles, what do? They re-optimize the cycle itself or reuse and replenish. So when you look at nature carefully, all these processes, engineering processes that we designed for ourselves have been naturally been done by, if we take care of nature, nature takes care of us. Otherwise, what is happening is we are putting in too many chemicals into the nature, and then we are getting into a loop, the vicious cycle of replenishment or reuse, or all these are taking longer time and more expensive. Whereas you can see nature managed water cycles are much cost effective and very interesting process that we need to emulate. So it is all happening. It returns back to pristine conditions through evaporation, infiltration, and surface water flows, and also it allows all of us to meet the needs. We are and allowing the biodiversity. So what is happening is human beings are breaking the cycle. At some point, we are breaking the cycle, and that cycle, once it breaks, the natural cycle is broken. Then we are getting into vicious cycle of biodiversity loss, climate change, excessive heat, all those other impacts are getting created, and we need to be careful about locally as well as globally how we are managing our water cycles. So just to give a few minutes about development alternatives, we are about more than 3 decades old organization, and designed for understanding the nature-people interactions and develop sustainable development initiatives, as well as create sustainable livelihoods. So for us, sustainable livelihoods means to think about all the 3 pillars of sustainability: clean and healthy environment, environmental aspects, the economics in terms of dignified and viable income generating opportunities, and also socially relevant and justifiable for informed and empowered communities. So all these 3 things we would like to see happening at the same time and same place, so that we can achieve the right kind of development. What are the kind of, I'll quickly go through because we have to listen to Mr. Eklavya. Some of the tools and techniques, practices for integrated planning and management of water resources that we employ in development alternatives. We emphasize on data-driven, demystified local planning processes. So we involve the local communities, village water communities, when dealing with water resource management, and institutional processes and planning is very important for us. And we take the opportunity of various projects and developing these tools and techniques. So this is another GIS-based high-tech technique, demystified. People understand how to plan for their resources. And we are creating water in places where there is no water, drought-prone in the Bundelkhand region. There is no drop of water, but we created in the in the minimum rainfall that happens, 400 to 600 millimeters, we manage to create water sources, number of them. So it is about water harvesting and using efficiently whatever water we have. So resource efficient technologies and practices we bring in. And another, just want to give you, even for future webinars, we will be introducing this. Clean India is a program that we started in 2000 for 7 years and called Community-Led Assessment Awareness Action, a 4A program, advocacy program. It's a Clean India network. It happened over a period of 7 years in 78 towns and cities. Thousands of school children have passed through the system. And what did this do? This Clean India program initiated action both at the individual level, community, household level, community level, and city level. So we enabled this network of people to understand the water sources, their water quality issues, and also other environmental issues. So we gave them tools such as these field test kits, by which they can understand what is the water quality of each source they monitor, and various parameters, fluoride, nitrate, iron, arsenic, all these parameters can be checked, and customized toolkits we have given, including bacterial contamination and benthic diversity in rivers. So with this, they mapped the cities as high-risk zones, low-risk zones, and by click of a mouse in a city, we can actually, one can see that these kind of maps are easy now than in 2000. And now we have these various kinds of maps that can be made using the digital opportunities. And you can see these maps are made by school children's data. Why is it moving on its own? So household water purification, so this, to get back, you can see in each of these maps, there are 3 triangles, one red, green, orange, and white. So red means the water quality is bad, whether it has a bacterial contamination or a fluoride contamination or arsenic contamination, which is not good for health. Green means all the other drinking water parameters that we have given as an algorithm are safe to drink, all that source. And white means that that area was not monitored. And orange or yellow that you see here is an indication that the water is going to be is already contaminated, but not that, that you have to be careful. Check your water. So these parameters are like hardness, excessive levels of hardness, not so much fluoride, arsenic, and bacteria. So those secondary level contaminants we have identified as orange. So what happens through this kind of citizen action, when you involve thousands of school children to monitor on their own their water resources, and such a great database comes in at one place, and one can start doing management practices, wherein the citizens can take care of the green part, orange part, the communities have to be careful, and the red zones have to be taken care totally by the government. So we created this avenue by interacting with the local government and the pollution control board at that time, and have an understanding in each city. They also monitor the water quality wherever there is a red zone. All the data collected by citizen science through these citizen activities will be endorsed or repeated by the state governments. This is a wonderful program that happened for 7 years, and this can be repeatable again. We have just started again in Udaipur recently. So one can see you can play with the data. What are the kind of water quality data, trends, each of those, and also the website provides how do you treat the water. So these are solutions. So we also got into training and capacity building using these training kits, toolkits that we use, and data depiction on the panchayat. You can see here in this. So local people will understand, they have the data at their hand, they have the tools with them. Even if they are using an RO system, they can actually test using this test kit whether the RO is working, functional, not functional, or any other filters they are using before and after. So it's very easy to operate toolkits. So we trained a huge number of villagers in various programs, and including climate theaters and eco club sessions. And so we made use of these toolkits and educating on water resources, understanding their knowledge, attitudes, and practices, how they can change over a period of time, and making them involved in these planning processes along with their parents. In the schools, it is Bal Panchayats, and the villages, it is the village water committees. So that is where I think I just want to stop. DA's expertise and experience in terms of water quality, quantity assessments, and we also look at gender issues, girl-child issues, and all those integrated aspects. So what we would like to do going forward is a future webinar focus will be on many of these topics. I think my colleague Geetika towards the end will repeat these. I will stop here, and we will look at having Mr. Eklavya to start. Am I completing my time? If there are any no questions, we can proceed. I have exceeded 5-10 minutes, I guess.
Thank you, Dr.
Sorry for
Lakshmi.
that.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi, for sharing such an interesting presentation and very insightful information. Now, I would like to introduce all the participants to our guest speaker, Mr. Eklavya Prasad. He is managing trustee with the Make Pine Abhiyan, which means Cloud Water Campaign. It's a public charitable trust based out of eastern state of Bihar. It is working on the issues concerning the resilience and adaptability amidst the extreme weather conditions, participatory groundwater management, safe and secure drinking water processes and technologies, and hygienic and contextual sanitation management through collective and accountability and action. Mr. Prasad is leading the Make Pine Abhiyan for last 15 years, and he has basically conceptualized this institution in partnership with local NGOs, volunteers, and villagers from North Bihar and rural and urban areas of Jharkhand and West Bengal. Mr. Prasad is an awardee of Dr. Rajendra Prasad Award for Impactful Social Worker by India Positive, and he has rich experience for 25 years. He has introduced temporary rainwater harvesting as a technique to access safe drinking water during the floods in North Bihar. He has also innovated ecological sanitation, which is very popular and has been accepted by the government of Bihar for the flood-prone areas. He has also initiated the movement for reviving the dug wells in the flood-prone areas with arsenic and iron contamination in the groundwater. He has also initiated Gang of 20 Future Water Leaders in Carmel School in 2015. And now the school has transformed the initiative into a course curriculum for all the students from standard 6 to 8. And he has also been nominated as one of the 22 selected individuals in India in the book known as Gems of Purest Ray Serene, whose foreword is written by Mr. Ratan Tata. He wears many hats, like he is managing trustee. He is a social development and water resources consultant, a teacher, a field mentor, a field action researcher, a campaigner, an innovator, and documentary photographer. Now may I request Mr. Eklavya ji, please, the floor is open for you, and please inspire our young minds. So you are muted.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Siddharth, and Dr. Vijay Lakshmi for the introduction. And I'm really grateful that I've got this opportunity of coming and sharing the experiences that Make Pine Abhiyan has had over the years while working in the flood-prone areas of North Bihar and in the urban space of Dhanbad district, and also parts of West Bengal. Let me, at the outset, let me give you a framework of my presentation. It is basically, it would be iterating a lot of points that Dr. Vijay Lakshmi has already mentioned in her presentation, but in our context, it will be from a very different landscape. And my whole emphasis today would be on the emergence of youth as future leaders. So I kind of wanted to coin a word, and that's how I have come up with this word called youthization, where whatever kind of interventions we're looking at, and I'm involved with water and sanitation, so I'm specifically looking at this particular vertical. So for us, it is extremely important as to how and what are the ways in which we can include youth. And my entire presentation is going to revolve around our experiences of working with the youth in the landscapes that I've mentioned. So before I begin, there is something that I want to show you, but I don't want to tell you what exactly it is. And it is for all of you to guess as to what I'm showing you. Maybe you can just mention that guess in the chat box, saying that whatever, and it'll be interesting to know your viewpoint. So please don't hesitate. There's nothing like right or wrong. It's all about perception. So this is a clip that I'm going to show you, and just you have to write in the chat box as to what do you think of this? What is it that you'll get to hear or see, for that matter?
Can we also write?
Yeah, sure. So everyone, please feel free. And at the end of the presentation, I'll try to share my perspective as to what is this clip all about. Okay, so this is something which I wanted to start off with because it somehow attracts attention, keeps you focused in what I'm going to share. Oops, sorry. Yeah. So let me, here I am speaking as in the capacity of a managing trustee of Megh Pine Abhiyan. And if you actually break the word, as Siddharth had mentioned, it's Cloud Water Campaign. This is a group of individuals and organizations and volunteers that have been working in Bihar, Jharkhand, and West Bengal. Our focus has been in Bihar, and recently we have moved to Jharkhand and West Bengal. Our area of interest and concern both happens to be natural and human-induced disasters, and overlaid with access to safe drinking water and sanitation. And when we are looking at access to safe water and sanitation and hygienic sanitation in the backdrop of human-induced and natural disasters, the main focus then goes on to groundwater. So for us, groundwater is the core, which has evolved over the years, rather than just being, being very clear from the beginning when we started work in 2005. So the narration today would actually highlight again as to why it was important for us to interact with the youth without having, and I went to that place to work without having any idea about water. So the people who actually guided me and the rest of my team members and the local organizations, to a large extent, were the youth as well. So this is, again, the story from where that is how I'm going to work on. And as Dr. Vijay Lakshmi had mentioned in her presentation, that, in her presentation, and even Siddharth mentioned that we work through partners. So we have a field-based partners and we have thematic partners. So it's kind of a hub and spoke model that we have been, developing in terms of taking resources and intellectual resources and inputs from agencies that have been working specifically on issues, and then also linking it with people who are there in the local areas. And I must mention here that the role of development alternatives in framing our entire work in North Bihar has been phenomenal. Mention of S.N. Prasad, he's been the mentor for many youths in North Bihar with regard to water quality, water testing, articulation, etc. So I would request Neha to please share my gratitude to S.N. Prasad, who's helped us so much in whatever we have been doing with regard to drinking water in the flood-prone areas of North Bihar. So, it is, in a way, it was very interesting when I was invited to do this, the first, and I feel privileged of being the first speaker in this series, webinar series. It actually pushed me to go back to the whole history in trying to locate how did we engage with youth. And it actually helped me to decipher a lot of processes that we had, which over the period of time you tend to overlook, you tend to forget, you tend to ignore. And this webinar, I mean, the talk actually has pushed me to look into those nuances. I remember it was in April 2005 when I was actually doing a study of flood-prone areas in Bihar for a magazine in Delhi. Uh, uh, and that was the time when I was told that there are no drinking water problems in Bihar, in North Bihar, and that is the image that I went back to Delhi with. At that time, I was staying in Delhi, and thereafter, when I started moving around in those areas, I realized that there are certain problems, there are certain challenges. Now, the challenges had to be confirmed. The challenges had to be, one had to know about the challenges and we had to engage with the challenges. And the engagement actually and the inputs of these challenges largely came from the senior people, middle-aged members of the community. But a lot of it was also being articulated by the youth. Now, their articulation was very different. Their language was very different. Their expressions were very different. And we had to understand those expressions, that language, that articulation. And that kind of helped us in developing a kind of a knowledge base which did not exist. And we were the first group, Make Pine Abhiyan was, I would say, in 2005, we were the first ones to initiate work on water in the flood-prone areas of North Bihar. So this is how the whole process started. And when we started engaging with people with regard to drinking water and asking them about access, etc., it was the whole process was very interesting because first of all, there was a kind of a denial, then there was a level of acceptance, then there was a level of questioning that if we perceive this to be a problem, then what are the solutions? So the engagement with the youth for us was very interesting because it never stopped at what we were trying to tell them. They also pushed us to look at what next. And therefore, it was always about addressing a problem along with possible options. So it was just not going and going with a blanket strategy and saying that this is the problem and you deal with the problem. So again, it is important that when we are engaging with the youth, it is important that we remain open as far as our own access, our own visualizations is concerned. We cannot just be a courier group going and delivering things. It has to be a reciprocal kind of interaction. This also is true with the remaining of the community. But because of the fact that youths are being exposed to these issues for the first time, or maybe they do not comprehend it in totality, therefore the kind of time given, the kind of interactions needs to be done in such a way that we transform mindsets. So it is interesting that the interaction, the idea that we had with regard to drinking water during floods, and the options that we tried it with the youth first. And it was the youth who actually helped us. Now the youth there, I would say that there were the two types of age groups within the category of youth. One was the school going, and the other one was the young people who had just migrated to other cities. And this is my favorite narrative, that it was based there was in Khagadia district, there was a brother and a sister who actually started doing rainwater harvesting, which kind of spiraled into the community doing rainwater harvesting, temporary rainwater harvesting during floods in that particular village, and thereafter in the panchayat. And the other one was there was an immense kind of resistance to even share the whole idea of temporary rainwater harvesting during floods in the community. And people, the young uh, boys who had migrated to North India, East India, in the hills, they were the ones who started iterating the fact that rainwater is good for health, and they have been surviving. So what I mean to say here is, with the help of, by engaging the youth, it became relatively easy for us to even explore the option of a technology which did not exist earlier. Now, their involvement actually resulted in involvement of the family. And I remember Dr. Vijay Lakshmi mentioning this point, that they train the kids as well as the parents. In our case, it was the same thing. When the kids started getting interested, and it was all done in a way that it was more fun, it was more educational, it was more interactional. So on that basis, the kids got interested in the whole process. Along with it, what happened was that their interest level started getting generated, and they started thinking about various ways of doing the same thing. So that was a way in which we were able to address one of the critical points of access to safe water during floods, when people are marooned or displaced, and where they do not have access to any hand pumps for safe drinking water. Now, this actually helped us to look at the whole point of volunteers. Now, volunteers had to be in such a way that we wanted the volunteers to be involved with us in such a way that it creates enthusiasm. It creates, so our whole strategy to address issues with regard to groundwater quality had to bring in those elements. So we used to, and because of the fact that we had to engage the youth, our strategies, our processes were such that we started looking at water festivals. We started looking at engagements. We started looking at storytelling exercises between the elders and the school-going kids, so that there is a lot of interaction around the whole issue of water, looking at the past, trying to understand the waterscape of that particular area. So after a while, we realized that though scientific knowledge is critical, but that is not the absolute. And that has to be laced with other factors that might be existing in the local areas and might differ in different areas. So that is how our whole strategy changed. We started designing our work because of keeping in mind the youth and the women. So right now I'm just looking at youth, therefore I'm not getting into the other verticals. And for us, we started realizing that whether it is the women or the youth, their expressions are very interesting with regard to water. So what we were thinking about water and our definition of a good water and bad water was very different than how they were doing it. And they were using aesthetics to describe the quality of water. Now, these learnings actually helped us in developing various strategies in terms of addressing drinking water issues in those areas. Now, I'll take a break here, and I'll again ask you a question as to what do you think this is? On one hand, the glass on the right hand side is kind of colorless or has got a green tinge, whereas the one on the left has it looks like either it's purple or has got Coke in it or something like that. So I would again ask you all to put in your views in terms of what exactly this is. Now, moving from here, and just a hint that this was a game changer for us. What you're seeing on the screen right now was a game changer. And because of the fact that it came to us through a villager and it got promoted and disseminated through youth. So it was not only about a certain aspect or as a game changer, but it was in totality that this particular strategy was a game changer. Now, I would just like you all to mention something in the chat box, what you think of it. Feel free, there's nothing right or wrong. It's best to express yourself. Now, as Dr. Vijay Lakshmi was talking about the kits that DA has developed, and we have been using them since, if I remember, since 2007. And we have also grown. We have evolved with that toolkit. I mean, with those water testing kits, they have also evolved, and so have we. And this was a fantastic medium to bring about consciousness amongst people in the village who at one point of time did not see themselves being constructively engaged with any of the processes in the village. And our entire team was of villagers and basically belonging to the youth category. So this was, and I would request Dr. Vijay Lakshmi also and Development Alternatives to see that how it is not about just that these water testing kits have just not given us the results of the water quality of the areas where they have been used, but it has also brought about a certain level of cadre which never existed earlier. So it's been a very critical tool for social mobilization as well. This was the same thing. So for us, it was all about engaging, and the reason why we were engaging youth is they had this knack, and the energy to share. It was not about just keeping it to themselves. Their energy to share, their energy to discuss, their energy to also question certain things. So, and that was the reason why we thought that it is extremely important to engage them and also to work with them on the whole process of developing an argument, of creating a level of consciousness, and also about looking at technologies. And with their help, we were able to deal with we did a lot of technological innovations at the grassroots. What you're seeing on your screen are these rainwater harvesting collection systems, starting from 60 liters to 130 liters to even 460 liters. And all of them being done for different typologies of floods. Now, this was done by the local people. We were totally not agreeing to the fact that we will get any of the solutions. We won't get it from, we won't import it. It has to be done in such a way that people are able to develop their own systems, and this was one of them. The second one was the filters that we did, and the filters were done based on the water quality results. So we were very specific about filters for just E. coli, filters for E. coli and iron, and filters for E. coli, iron, and arsenic, and filters for arsenic. So it was kind of, we started moving around in a very detailed and an intricate manner, addressing the local issues. We were not getting into generalized solutions. And that again was being done in collaboration, in cooperation with the youth. And because of the fact that in order to set these things at the grassroots, it is extremely critical that you have a team apart from your own team, the full-time colleagues that are there, a team that does the basic running around, which is so critical while setting up this whole argument. And if we fail in that, then the translation does not happen. So this is another example. This is an amazing example. I think so. It was Siddharth who mentioned that we have been working on revival of dug wells in the iron and arsenic affected areas of North Bihar. This is a fantastic case study from Khagadia, where a youth group had come together to revive this dug well. And this was done in 2009. And recently I went early January, that dug well, the blue color dug well that you see, has been taken over by the government and is being showcased that it's been done under the Jal Jeevan mission. Now, there is from a space where this dug well was almost created or transformed into a dustbin with the local youth group, and we were almost on the verge of leaving that village because we were so frustrated that nothing was working. And because of the coming of the youth group, the entire scenario changed. So these are the examples which again reinforces us, gives us the patience and the enthusiasm to keep doing something which maybe initially we faced a lot of failures, but it kept on. These stories help us to keep moving ahead. So this has been one of the biggest learnings that we've had from Bihar. Similarly, the ecological sanitation that we've been talking about, all of this has been innovated by masons who are youth who migrate to different places, either to Nepal or to other higher centers in Delhi. They were the ones who were involved in bringing about these innovations. So you will see a lot of different structures in the photographs, and this is how we evolved ourselves. And today the government does consider ecological sanitation, which we called as Faidaman Shauchalay, as something which is considered to be a technology which has been accepted by the government, both by the state and the center. Now, all of this couldn't have been possible if we did not have that chunk of youth with us, because they were the ones who, and it's very important, and I'll keep iterating in my entire presentation. It is important because of the fact that we need to understand that there are certain limitations for our engagement also. There has to be certain flag bearers at the community level, and they are the ones who are supposed to be doing it in the longer term, in long term, and therefore the stress on youth being engaged, because they'll go a long way. And plus they have not developed mindsets. They are fresh, they're open, and they are kind of in a position that they question, and then they tend to develop their own thoughts. This is again of last year, where this is one of the 5-dimension shauchalays in Paschim Champaran district. And you can see that when we were constructing it, the whole concept was that, this should be flood resilient and accessible during floods. And this was the floods around the 26th of September. The toilet is still accessible. Now, the design of this particular toilet has come from a mason who must be about 20 in that particular household, and he was the one who conceptualized this. Now, these are symbols for us, symbols which iterate, which establishes the fact that why it is critical. It's not just about a theory. It's just not about an assumption. It's about the whole process as to why it is important to get youth involved directly in the work that we are doing. And it should not be that, we are just catering to their needs. Their involvement needs to be also streamlined in a way that we learn from them and we gain ultimately in the work that we are doing. How much time do I have? Okay, I'll just try to finish it. So the other thing which we started doing was trying to, as I said earlier, that we are looking at groundwater as the core, because that is what people are dependent on in North Bihar, even in Jharkhand, with regard to drinking water, sanitation, and domestic use. So it becomes very important for us to have an understanding of groundwater at that level. And for us, we have been working on this whole model of Bhujal Doot, which is groundwater ambassadors. Now, the groundwater ambassadors they are trained through various levels of various series of trainings in order to make them the local hydrogeologists. Now, the whole process, I don't have the time to tell you about the whole process. The intention is that even if we are not there, even if the organization moves out of that particular area, the knowledge remains there. And we've had some fascinating experiences of, despite moving away from a particular panchayat of work, the villagers have continued to raise issues and have been able to attract attention with regard to arsenic and iron contamination, which otherwise would have been very difficult. And the articulation happens because of the fact that there is a balance in terms of representation of those thoughts by youth and by the village elders as well. So I'm not negating the fact that it's only about youth, but then youth comes in with a very critical component. And again, as I had mentioned earlier, their capacity to disseminate is quite a lot. It's quite a lot. So for us, the whole strategy was that with the youth, we were able to bring in this whole element of protocols and processes for safe drinking water. And it was important that we did it in this way because of the fact that unless we did that, it wouldn't have been possible for people to even internalize as to what needs to be done next and how we need to articulate the problem, how do we need to address the problem, what are the stages of it. And it's not that they have been following all of this. There are times when people just skip it. There are times that people go ahead and innovate it. There are many a times that they question the processes. So this is just a framework that I've shared. There's nothing sacrosanct about it. But the fact is that the way we have moved in these villages, this is the outcome where people know. And now with the pipe water supply system coming into these villages, it is now the time that they are realizing that there are certain aspects that needs to be questioned in order to tell themselves that the water that they are accessing or the water that they are receiving is of good quality. So this is one of the impacts of it. So it's all about, I'll just summarize it. It's all about how did we converge the youth and the enthusiasm, the formal knowledge, the local knowledge, transfer of intergenerational knowledge. All of this has been the prime focus while working with the youth. And it has been a huge learning, because the kind of work that we were able to do and the kind of work that we are planning to do is only possible if we converge with them. As I said earlier, that we have a cadre of para hydrogeologists, which we called as groundwater ambassadors or bhujal doots. And this we started way back in, and it has also evolved. Earlier they were jal doots, so they were water ambassadors. Now they are bhujal doots, because we are looking very specifically in terms of the groundwater, and they are the resource persons at the ward level, at the panchayat level, sharing information with the people. So I don't want to iterate things which I've already mentioned, that it's all about the processes and how we include the group like youth into this whole issues. The fact that alternative practices require a lot of understanding, requires a lot of patience, requires a lot of questions to be answered. Therefore, it is important and extremely critical to involve youth. And I must have repeated n number of times about this particular fact, but this is, I think so. This is a game changer for us. So coming back to the last two slides that I have, the learnings that we had from 2006 till 2016 of working with the youth in the rural areas of North Bihar, we thought of getting those, using that experience and trying to have to experiment a model in an urban area. And we did this with, as Siddharth had mentioned in the introduction, that we had a gang of 20. So we started mentoring these students when they were in, I think so, they were in the seventh standard. And we moved till they were till 10th, and then few of them moved away and few continued till they were in the 12th. Now, the whole process was an exploratory process, both for Make Pine Abhiyan, for Kamal School, and for me as well, because we were trying to charter a path for ourselves to work on these issues, and we were not copying any prescribed strategies. What we wanted basically to do was to see as to how interests can be generated, how interests can be ensured. And because of the gang of 20, we were able to do a lot of rainwater harvesting work, promoting it. We did an assessment of groundwater and pipe water dependence in the city of Dhanbad. We were able to uh, identify and also map water bodies in the DMC areas. We were also able to create a narrative of household water use. So there was a lot of these work that carried on, and we were almost about to have this transformed into a course curriculum. But unfortunately, last year, with the coming in of COVID, all of it has just gone for a toss as of now. We are still hoping that when things go right, we'll be back. So at the end, it's basically, as I said, I'll be showing you something which, are there any responses in the chat box? What are they?
Yes. Yeah. Do we have, are you finished?
No, before that, I'll just, I want to hear that, and then I'll show the video again.
Yeah. In fact, it's very interesting. People have shared very interesting ideas, and many of them have questions also. So Neha, would you take forward from here?
So what are the inputs?
Yeah, we are just sharing.
So, Siddharth, we have few hands raised. Shall we ask them? Shall we start from Amrish?
No, let me first complete. It's just this bit of. So
Sure.
I just want to know what is their response.
Yeah,
to that first clipping that I showed to them.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just reading. Um,
Some are saying गिरता हुआ पानी
Girta
and
hua.
sound
Okay.
of running water.
Okay. So let me show this. I don't know. I mean, let's see whether they are right or wrong. I mean, as I said, there's nothing right or wrong. But let's see what I was trying to show it to all of you. Yeah, so I'm done with this. And it was basically the rainwater harvesting that we do at our place in Dhanbad. The sound was actually of the rainwater being diverted into a dug well. And that is where it is. So thank you so much. Sorry I took a bit of more time than what was allocated to me. I'll stop my presentation and then we can have question answers.
Yeah, thank you so much, Iklaveji. It was very, very interesting to know so much innovation has taken place. And in fact, in your second presentation where you showed two glasses, one with the purple color water, and so people have given very interesting answers to that. So there is one Bharti, she has written the purple water must be oxidized by the plant to near normal color.
The purple water. Okay. All right. And that's the only response. And there is one.
We have more. Neha, can you see that?
Read out all quickly.
Shubham, Rajni, Anshu, can you quickly look at the answers?
Some of the responses are, this is a local herb to clean or purify the water. One response is water which has been cleaned by plants. First glass contains polluted water and second glass contains plant species that is absorbed by polluting elements.
Oxidant and antioxidants.
Okay, so
first,
so this is basically a test which was taught to us by a villager in Supal district. This is the test with which we enter a village, especially in North Bihar. And the test is basically to know whether the water has iron or not. So we use guava leaves, amrud ka patta ko lete hain hum log, and we crush it and we put it into the water. So the two glasses that you saw, the one which was colorless had bottled water in it. Had a dug well water in it. And the other one had the hand pump water in it. And after you put these crushed guava leaves in the water, the color changes within seconds. So it's like someone had mentioned that, the leaves are responsible. So there is a chemical process that takes place because of the presence of the iron in the water and the enzymes that are getting secreted when you crush the water, the leaves, and that is why the color changes. And we also graded it. So with the help of the testing kit, which was given to us by DA, along with that, we graded even the colors of the outcome of the purple color, and we were almost in a way to figure out what is the contaminant load of, what is the extent of iron in the water. It's all it's indicative. It's nothing specific, but that used to help us. So what we found is the more the iron contamination, the darker the water used to be. So this was something and which actually helped us a lot, because when you are talking to people and people keep saying that their water is good, and when you do this test, it just hits you. It hit me first. I mean, I still remember that experiment being done in front of me for the first time, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I thought, no, there's something wrong in it. And now we have been able to spread this whole technology in Southeast Asia, in different parts of the country, and it's been interesting. Yeah. So, are there questions or?
Yes, yes. The hand is raised by Mr. Sudeep Day. Neha, can you promote him to the panelist section so that he can speak? Or maybe we can unmute there itself.
We can see his hand. He's here now. Professor Gupta. Siddharth, please take over.
So,
Dr. Gupta wants the audio to be given to him. He is unable to, I think.
Am I audible?
Yes.
yes.
First of all, thank you so much, Ekalaveji, for sharing your wonderful experiences. Though I'm more into technology side, but since you have given interesting case studies about community involvement, I just would like to share 2-3 things which we learned from the communities for improving the technology. For rainwater harvesting structures, many places in Rajasthan, they have a wonderful system for avoiding the first flush going into the rainwater harvesting process. So that can be really copied at other places as well. We had a very bad experience with the domestic deflotation units of activated alumina. Long back, 20 years back, we introduced it, because the moment the villager would go to the regeneration center, and if he sees the acid being used for regenerating it, he would never take back his unit. So we had to go for community level plants. So there was nothing wrong with the technology, but it was not accepted. Another interesting thing which we could introduce in some of the villages, we used to show them the problems associated with fluorosis. And in Rajasthan, we are purged water tables. So one village, 5 wells, 5 will have very different fluoride. So we used to ask them to conserve the well with lesser fluoride and use only for drinking and cooking. It brought a lot of community, cohesiveness. But at the same time, we had bad experiences too, that defloration plants were to be used by only certain community people. And another interesting thing is, I'm not talking about high community or low community or whatever. Some of the RO plants are not being used by some very affluent communities, despite the fact that the groundwater is very bad. Reason, it was ladies who are bringing the water, and their ladies are not allowed to go without parda. So they are not allowed to go to the water ATM to derive water. So they are getting they're not getting the benefits. So it's very, very important for all the technologists to understand the community aspects, which are even more important than the technology itself. So I'm so thankful to you for sharing such. One more example, which is very strange. Almost 25 years back, we were introducing certain low-cost toilets. And in one of the villages, they built some community toilets at the fringe of the village boundary. And the response of some of the women was, please don't put any roof on the toilet. Reason, they felt insecure
To stay
at
with
that corner of the village, and if they shouted for help, they should be heard from a distance. Strange. But this is how community involvement is a must for any of such projects. Luckily, I've worked in about 125 villages for introducing different technologies, and I can appreciate the kind of wonderful works that you've done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Gupta. This was amazing. I mean, I'm so thrilled to hear these nuances, because, at one point of time, when you start talking to people about nuances, they think that it's a rhetoric, but it is not. It's fascinating. When we started working on temporary rainwater harvesting, you won't believe, we were shooed away from the village, literally. And I remember in Supol, there was a group of women who actually started running behind us. They shooed us from a temple area only because of the fact that there was a myth, and there's an entire myth in that area that if you have rainwater, if you consume rainwater, it leads to goiter. Now that was so intense that we had to fight that. So thank you so much for
No, you're
sharing.
right. Recently, from from some villages of Madhya Pradesh, which had certain springs at the higher elevations, absolutely wonderful water. But those tribals were told that if they drink this water, they will have lots of health problems. So they wanted to mineralize that water. And the engineers are asking me, sir, what should we put as a mineral in it? So this is true, absolutely.
Thank you.
So I have given the audio rights to every attendee. You can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Dr. Chandana has a question in the question answer box.
I think she has left.
She's here. She's here.
Okay, Dr. Chandana.
Yes, I'm here. But it's in the chat. I can just read it out if you like.
Yeah.
It's in the Q&A, I suppose.
Yeah.
So basically, I can't find it now, but I was asking about.
Maybe I can read that. It has, Chandana, I'm reading it out. It has always seemed to be that solar disinfection of drinking water would be an ideal strategy in a flood-prone region. It is also very much a people's technology. All it needs is a transparent bottle that can be exposed to the sun for a number of hours. Would you consider using it even if it has been suggested to you by local people? If it has not been suggested.
I'm so sorry, Chandna ji, that I did not mention about it. In the year 2007, when Bihar had faced really bad floods, almost 22 districts and 25 million people were affected, we did use this technology a lot. It's good that I need to incorporate this particular argument in my presentation. We did use it, and as like others, it was difficult for people to believe that it happens. But again, when they used it for a longer duration, it was they actually saw the benefits. But then, yes, I think so. A lot more engagement with this issue is required. Even we did it for a short period. We didn't continue it for a long period. But then, yes, this is another issue, and we have already tried it and we tested it on ourselves, and then we moved ahead, and yes, it had good positive results. So thank you for bringing this forth. I forgot to mention this in my presentation.
Thank you. But did you discontinue because there were any problems associated with it? I mean, not just in terms of its effectiveness.
No, we discontinued. I wouldn't say we discontinued. We used to become like, we used to bring it on board only during floods. So
Yeah.
now what we realize is, in order to establish a technology, such a local technology, there has to be a continuity. So whether it is floods or not, the argument needs to go on. So this has been one of our major learnings, that whether we are having floods or not, this kind of an technology needs to be talked about on a more regular basis. So that's what we are doing now.
One last thing, I know I shouldn't take all this time, but we've used it in conjunction with water harvesting in South Africa. And is that something that that you could foresee using?
Sorry, come again. I kind of I couldn't hear you properly.
We've used it. Yeah, we've used it in conjunction with water harvesting in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering, would you consider using it in the same way in Bihar?
What we do in Bihar is basically a temporary rainwater harvesting system.
Okay.
Temporary primarily because of the fact that these flood affected areas, they cannot afford to have permanent structures. And during floods, mostly people are displaced from their original dwellings. So we developed a system where in such a manner that wherever they are, they can actually harvest the water. So that is why the catchment is the polythene sheets. And the rainwater is collected in these temporary containers that are made in the villages itself. So it's kind of, that is what the whole concept was, as to when they move, will they be still able to access safe water? Yeah, sorry, you were saying something.
No, I really should let other people talk. Maybe we can follow up another time. But just that, if it was in fact a plastic container, clear plastic container, which could serve as a reactor, but it can also, float and keep water safe. It does. In that sense, it wouldn't be. It could be a rainwater harvesting system, which is also movable. And I don't know. This sounds
Maybe we
crazy
connect on this.
moment.
Yeah, maybe we connect on this.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Thanks very much.
Can we have another question? So there's one question from Manisha. She has asked, sir, could you please discuss more about these innovative filters for E. coli and arsenic?
What do you want me to discuss? You say specifically, and
innovative filters for E. coli and arsenic.
So the whole approach here was basically to develop filters that could be developed at the local level. Now, for arsenic, what we had done was, and there were inputs also that we got from development alternatives. We learned from their technologies as well, because at that point of time there was a lot of collaboration happening because of the water testing exercise that we were doing. So what we did was, we had, for arsenic, we had done this filter on rusted nails, and then the entire sandbed filtration that we had approached. So it was both for arsenic as well as for E. coli. And I must admit that there were failures. I mean, we failed miserably before we could actually, come up with a system which we said that yes, it is effective. So whatever I'm showing you, I'm just showing you the outcome. I'm not got into the processes of each of them. So even for us to figure out the contamination, extent of contamination, whether it's iron or arsenic, and how do we make the filters accordingly, was a big challenge. Because look, we were working more from a framework which was more indicative. We did not have a laboratory there. So for our purpose, it was that we should address these problems either in plurals or in singular, if they exist in a similar manner. So I think so. And even for the E. coli, it was the sand bed, the sand filter that we were using. The only difference one was that we did it from the top till the bottom. We filled it with different courses of sand, and it was from the top to the bottom, and then the layer was formed on the top, which actually helped us in controlling the E. coli. And then if you see the photograph, there is the tap which was put in was at the different levels. So, if we wanted to have E. coli free water, then we used to have the tap which is on the higher elevation, which we accessed it. So these were certain small things that we did. And the process was such that it could be done by people themselves. That is what the whole intention was, rather than getting technologies which people could not understand.
Thank you, Eklavyaji. We have another question from Sudeep Sarkar. He's asking, does your indigenous filter remove arsenics to WHO or IS standards to 10 mg per liter?
Well, as I said, our intention has always been to be very specific to that area. I would not like to claim that all of it is done in such a way that we are adhering to WHO norms, but our entire effort is to provide them water which is safe. Our tagline is safe water. So whatever is possible within that, and also we need to understand that there are various levels of contamination that are there. The places where we have worked in Bihar, Supal, Saharsa, Khagadia, Madhubani, and Paschim Champaran, out of these places, the areas which have high levels of arsenic is Khagadia, parts of Saharsa and Supol, and even some parts of Paschim Champaran. There we have been able to control this. So wherever filters we have used, we have been able to address this. We have not worked in Bhojpur. So if you ask me whether the filters that we have done, whether it will be productive in Bhojpur, Buxar, I won't be able to tell you that. But at least in these 5 districts, places where with high arsenic contamination, we have had some positive results. Though there is a huge scope of improvement, we cannot say that we have reached the ideal scenario.
Thank you
Okay,
so much.
just I may come in here. Whoever is wanting to use the arsenic filters and biological filter together, there is a time depending on the concentration of the arsenic in the input water. It's ideal that a local community maintains a test kit to understand whether some of these test kits can measure up to 10 microgram per liter as per the WHO standard. Give you an indication. It may not be accurate, but at least they will know whether they are meeting the standards. So my recommendation is to give along with the filters test kit and give them a periodic checking periodicity, maybe 3 months, 6 months, depending on the input concentration, and the local facilitator has to do this. And finally, the filter bed has to be thrown off and replenished with new one. So otherwise what happens is people might be drinking water without knowing whether they are consuming, because it keeps accumulating. In these filters, that is one of the requirements. Thank you. Go ahead with other questions.
Yeah. I can see one question from Veena Khanduri. Can you unmute yourself and ask the question?
Hello. Dr. Eklavya Prasad, thank you so much for very insightful field experience. As I am aware about this filters and technologies, I just wanted to ask you, as the local people are involved in the construction of filters, and they are utilizing the local traditional knowledge as per the site and the soil and the availability of the material. But is there any efforts for them to have the capacity building from other parts of country or from the other parts of world to understand the similar kind of initiatives going on? I just wanted to understand.
Thank you, Veena-ji, for this question. In fact, this was a big challenge for us because I remember there were 2 districts, Khagadia and Madhubani, where we were not able to construct the filters according to our own, design. And the problem was that there was lack of skills and also the material used, the raw material that we were getting in Madhubani and in Khagadia was different. So what we did was, in fact, in Supol district, we had worked with a mason and we developed his entire approach he became an entrepreneur, and he was known as the filter wala something. So he was the one who was selling a lot of filters in Supol district. So so before going pan India, we thought of having interactions within the state. Again, because of the language and expressions and all was similar. So the person from Khagadia, from Supol, actually went to Khagadia, spent time with the mason there, and helped him develop the structure. At the end of it, we realized that we cannot come up with the same design that we are using in Supol and Saharsa, so a new design came up. And similar was a strategy in Khagadia and Madhubani as well. So yes, these challenges do come in because landscapes are different, materials that we get access to are different, skills are different. And in that case, we need to figure out what are the meeting points. We cannot be totally, what should I say? We cannot be stubborn in saying that we want this particular design. It has to evolve if we are doing it with the local people. And yes, as Dr. Vijay Lakshmi had mentioned a few minutes back, when we used to, provide filters, we used to also try to keep a check of the water quality so that people know as to what kind of water they're drinking. It was just not given one time, and that was the end of it. So this was another protocol that we followed. Thank you.
Okay, next I can see Mr. Rohit Kumar. Can you unmute yourself and ask the question? Hello. Okay, anybody else?
That can we open poll now?
Just a minute, just a minute. There is one hand raised. I can't see. Yeah. Sandeep sir, can you unmute yourself and ask the question? You can, I think, open the video also.
Siddharth, you may have to announce the outer time limit because people are dropping off. When are we closing this and other announcements?
Hi,
Just
Dr.
last
Eklavya.
one
This
question.
is Sandeep from DA. And excellent work you are doing. My question is that how you engage the volunteers, because that's the biggest challenge we also face most of the time in all these activities where most of the work where the payment is not available, but issues needs to be addressed to volunteerism approach. So how you did that and what is your model? So please can you explain on that?
Yes, thank you for this question, Sandeepji. We have done kind of a resource mapping of things that we require from the community and things that the community requires from us. So it's kind of a balanced interaction. Now, there's a lot of information in order to do work on groundwater is what we require from people. So this is what actually takes us to or pushes us to look into or explore the whole aspect of volunteerism. Now, definitely in a place like North Bihar where migration is rampant, we needed to have a set of people who were more constant at the village level rather than floating. And one could not even ask people not to migrate because that happened to be the main source of livelihood in pockets there where we were working. So for us, getting the youth or the young students interested was the main strategy. As I said earlier, we used a lot of humor, entertainment, interactions, light moments, to get them involved in the work. And it's not as easy as I'm saying it to be. There were dropouts there as well. But then we do have committed people who are moving around, talking about this thing at the village level. So the basic point which we learned or we still try to apply is bring in that element of fun and contribution, which was somehow in our work, we tend to forget about fun. We become so serious that, the fun element goes. Fun is something which relaxes us, and that is what has made us do things which we couldn't have done otherwise.
There is a connecting question to this. Were you selecting your the Bhujal Jankas and other local resource person out of these best volunteers?
Okay, so our normal approach is that we have this larger group of volunteers, and from there we then try to ask them, or we ask them to volunteer themselves to being Bhujal Doots. Now, because Bhujal Doots, in order to be a Bhujal Doot, they have to go through 3 levels of training, and each level is about different aspects of groundwater. Now, it is totally up to people whether they want to come in or not. So the many a times, because of the fact that they see the work, the involvement, the problem, I won't say everyone gets excited, but few of them, they do. And out of those few of them, some of them stay back, some of them drop off. Now, what is interesting happening is we've had people who joined us and got the training, and because of which they were able to get jobs somewhere else on the basis of the training that they did. Now, that was a triggerer, but these are exceptions. No one, I mean, it's very difficult for everyone to get a job because of the fact that they happen to be trained Bhujal Doots. But these are, even if these are singular cases, but they do happen. So we do not pick anyone. That is one fundamental thing that we do. The moment you pick, somehow you are passing down your desperation. We are indicating of the desperation. It's better that, it evolves. Maybe we need time for that. It takes time. And otherwise, the moment you identify, then, the whole manner in which the message goes is very different. So we keep away from that.
So thank you so much, sir. Now we have another activity. IT team, can you please start the polling? I would request all the participants, if you have any question or thought, please put them in this chat box, and please participate in this quiz. We have 5 questions for you, and I hope everybody can see this quiz. I hope everybody can see this quiz. I request all the participants to please participate in this polling.
How much time are you giving, Siddharth?
We have around 3 minutes.
Yeah, please announce what next.
Yeah, so this will be the last session, last activity.
First of all, thank
yeah, of course. So I'm just waiting that people participate in this quiz.
Once we get the quiz result, after that we will announce the closing.
Okay.
So I will encourage more participation in this quiz. I could see only 23%.
Can I utilize this extra minute just to bolster the efforts of Eklavya ji? I'm just sharing one information. In most of the US universities, rather Western universities, they have a program called LINC, Living in Communities. And the students are asked to go compulsorily for at least 2 weeks into such community programs, and they give a very high weightage for that experience. So maybe you can derive some such students from such a course. The education has to change by incorporating certain weightage to such programs like LINK program of US universities. We used to get students from Harvard, Illinois State University, and I used to send MNIT students along with them, and we used to give them some weightage. So, but that has to be brought into the curriculum, which is compulsory in the Western world. Yeah, thank you.
For your kind information to the participants, DA has done for some time rural immersion programs, and we used to get students, and we used to do highly selectively. We used to select them and make sure that they live in the community in the Delkhand area where we have an office, and then they actually understand their problems and become champions of solving their local problems. So it was very interesting rural immersion program, and we thought we will revive it again once the pandemic is over.
That's interesting. In fact, that question was asked by a student. So I thought this is how NGOs and other organizations can derive a lot of volunteers. They have very good skills for convincing the rural people for adopting a particular technology, and rather adapting a particular technology as well.
I think IRMA still does it quite. I mean, they're
Yes, correct. Yes.
In fact, we have Development Management Institute in Patna, DMI.
Hmm.
They have been doing this. I mean, their curriculum also has, uh, so does SNU, Shivnadar University. They have the water policy course there.
It
So
should be across all streams.
very true, very true. Totally agree.
So now I would like to announce the results. So basically, we got 56% participation for the first question. The first question asked, "What is the where is the most of Earth's fresh water?" So the correct answer is aquifers. The second question is, "What is the project to clean up the polluted water of Ganga called?"
You have to be a bit louder.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay, so the second question is, "What is the project to clean up the polluted water to Ganga of Ganga called?" So the correct answer is Ganga Action Plan, and 65% of the participants have voted correctly.
Excellent.
The third question is City Palace Udaipur. The City Palace of Udaipur is built on which famous lake? So the correct answer is Lake Pichola, and the 40% of respondents have answered correctly. The fourth question is, he has been recognized as a waterman of India, working for reviving 5 dead rivers in the country. The correct answer is Mr. Rajinder Singh, and around 80% of participants have voted correctly. The last question is, when is the World Water Day celebrated? So the correct answer is 22nd of March. Around 85% of respondents have voted correctly. So I would like to thank our guest speaker, Ecological, for giving so much valuable information, insightful information to us. And I think all the participants and the team has also learned a lot about the rural innovative ideas of managing the water resources, especially during the flood. I also thank all the participants for participating and very proactively. Now I request our Senior Program Director, Gitika Swamiji, would like to say
Let's
something.
give him a big hand if you have the.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you go into that? I can't see my raised hand. Only raised hand is coming.
Yeah, we don't have reactions in this.
Why? What happened? Earlier it was there. Okay. Anyhow, let's clap. Eklavyaji is wonderful lecture. Very interesting and very engaging. Thank you so much. Geetika, go ahead.
Thank you, Siddharth. So I think it's already almost it's a really a wonderful session. And to be very frank, this was our first lecture series, and we were not so much confident about the success, but it's just a overwhelming response. And thank you so much. Thank you, Eklavyaji. Your work is wonderful, and I mean that is one of the reason that we thought maybe you would be our first speaker of this series. And so it's a wonderful session, and we got overwhelming response from participants. I think it was 119 total participants at one time, and they all participated, and mostly from the educational institutes, research institute researcher, and some professors and faculty members. And thank you so much, everyone, for your engaging discussion, participation in the discussion. And I would like to thank a special thanks to the team, to my team, who has really done excellent work and who are there here already. Siddharth, who is doing the moderating, Rajni, who is always behind the camera. There is Anshul, Neha, and Shubham. They're excellent, and our IT team, excellent coordination. And there were a lot of, I would say, it was sleepless nights, sort of, how we will manage everything, because since it's a young team, everyone has a lot of ambition that how can make this is a beautiful one, people will remember. So they have done a wonderful job. Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. KVL and Dr. Vijay Lakshmi, for the wonderful speech about, as you all know, Dr. Vijay Lakshmi is associated with GA for almost 30 years. So she is sort of a live laboratory of what DA has done all these years. So wonderful. And your initial speech, it actually makes people more interested about our work. So thank you so much. And I really welcome all of you, all participants, professors, to be with us, attend our other lectures. And we want to make it not a lecture series only. We want to make it something big, because this is how I think we can reach out to people. And as Dr. Gupta has already mentioned, I think it's a wonderful thing if we can really put this kind of activities into a curricula. And I think, sir, this was also our sort of agenda of starting this kind of lecture series, to reach out to more people, and then we can only support you people, the faculty member. How can the more and more students can be associated with us, researcher can be associated with us, so that we all can work for the cause of water, and which is the important factor right now at the age of climate change. So thank you everyone. Thank you so much, and hope to see you all in our next webinar. Which is
Geetika, before you close, just want to say we are very thankful to our funding sources, without whose support we wouldn't have got it done. Our people, especially the Danish Embassy project in Udaipur on creating sustainable hydrological modeling exercise that we are doing, and the other one is Pani Water project in Horizon 2020 under DST and EU project, these two projects. And our Center of Excellence that we started in Bundelkhand is also a repository of this. And before Geetika closes this, I would like to announce that our future webinars are going to be around water and various other dimensions of water. Today we had people interaction and stories we heard. And the webinar also is going to be more not just in the form of lectures, but it can be in the form of trainings, interactive sessions, panel discussions, and also the subject areas can vary from gender issues to women and girls, women and water and technology related, or how to teach water, other subject areas like chemistry, physics. How do you learn the dynamics of physics and chemistry and engineering and medical sciences and water pollution and water footprints and many subjects we are planning to organize one after the other. And we need your suggestions further in case there are any topical issues that we would like you to bring to you as a webinar series. Please continue to be engaging with us, and in future webinars we would like to see you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone. Great, and looking forward to see you all another 15 days. We'll keep you posted our next webinar. Thank you.
Siddharth, you want to announce? We are moving all attendees to the panelist for a group photo.
But I think Eklavya ji has left.
Are you doing a group photo?
I wanted to do.
We have already taken, huh?
But everybody is not there now as we on video.
No, the point is only 21 attendees are left now, and
35 total. Why don't you ask whoever is there? We can have it.
Let's
okay.
just take one.
Okay, so I request all the participants to please be here. We are moving you to the panelist section, and so that you can open your videos, and we will have a group photograph. I would request DA team to start promoting the attendees.
Sorry for delayed announcement, but we are also learning on the job. Thank you.
I'm afraid Mr. Eklavya has left, I think.
It's already left.
Yeah.
We'll do some photo edit. But if everybody is opening their videos, just take it. Is everybody opening or not?
I request all the participants to open your videos.
You have to be a bit louder, Siddharth.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, I request all the participants to please open your videos.
For a photo.
Yeah, for a group photograph.
Fine. I think it is not working, or if anybody has any problem, let us know. Otherwise, we can drop this idea.
We have taken it.
You've taken it? I can't see anyone's face.
Yeah, even I can see.
Okay.
Whoever has switched on their videos, we have taken the photographs. We'll be sharing it over email.
Okay. We'll call it a day.
Yeah, we can.
Thank you all. Final. Thank you so much. We can switch off now.
Please stay for a minute.
Neha, group photo हो गया है ना?
Yes.
We can we now just switch off, or
I think so. Yeah.
there are some attendees are still here. There are some attendees are there. 24 attendees.
No, I've tried to promote them into panelists, but I don't know.
It didn't
Yeah,
happen.
4 people could not be moved to the panelist somehow.
But
Rest are here.
we have still 3 attendees, right?
They could not be moved, so we'll be leaving.
Anyway, it's also a lesson. But thank you all. Thank you, team. It was really wonderful. You guys have done a wonderful job. I have taken this photo along with Eklavya ji, so I will share it with you.
Okay.
Okay.
सोनू ये रिकॉर्ड हो गया ना? हो रहा है रिकॉर्डिंग. So इसको सेव कर लेना सोनू.
ठीक है. Okay. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. And it was really good. But I would really
all of you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. And इसका जो second webinar का वो था ना टॉपिक था, उसको एक बार हम यहाँ पे दे देते तो अच्छा होता लास्ट में. But overall, it is okay. It is fine. It is very good.
We have to secure speakers, no? Don't be in a hurry.
Yeah, but at least लोगों को पता तो चल